All right, so we're gonna get you guys' videos broken down here. We're gonna get these smaller ones just playing and going, and so that way those guys that are not in the big one, who's currently getting talked about, getting broken down, can be kind of watching theirs, comparing it then to other guys', seeing some similarities and differences to what's going on, and then maybe also hearing what's being talked about in the big video and hearing how that could relate to what you see going on in your video. Okay, so a little bit of the hunch that we have, and we haven't talked about that yet, but we had this little hunch, which I think for you and your body, it works out kind of well because you stay in relatively that same angle until we get to this position where we're back straight up and down again. However, we can see that that front foot is landing on the inside of the foot, which is also then having our knee be inside of our body. And also then our front hip has not opened up. It's still closed because of the angle that our thigh is in here. And this could be because of how much we've been hunched over this entire time, having more of our body weight here, out this way, rather than having our body weight more straight above the hips and above the back leg. And since we move down the mound with our back leg, if our body is above that back leg, then our body would probably move better towards that direction of home plate rather than our body's weight being more over the front leg. So now our body's going to want to go more where the front leg is going, which is out over here a little bit more as opposed to over here. And it's going to want to kind of hang out over here more. And we don't have the explosiveness yet to be able to rotate this knee all the way through before this front foot hits the ground. And because of that, we're hitting it on the side of our foot, which is then going to lead to us being not very stable as we try to rotate those shoulders through to get into a throwing position. And because of that wobble and that knee having to roll out, knee having to roll out, in order to get hips through finally. But all the while that knee had to swivel, rotate, or peel out in order to get the hips through, the shoulders have also came through now. So now we don't have what we call upper lower half separation, having the lower half rotated forward while the upper half remains in this position here. So this upper body's position is what we want it to look like when our front foot first hits the ground. Okay, we can see when your foot first hits the ground, your shoulders have already begun to rotate or open up, meaning now when we go to throw, we have less rotation to create power with because we're only rotating this amount through there versus being able to rotate from here, about like right here, where our shoulder's still closed off in line with the target, and then we'd be able to rotate with all of this power, but we can't get all of that power because we can't throw until our foot's down. So once the foot gets down, and like we see, it's not all the way down. Now it's all the way down. And now we can see once the foot's all the way down, how much our shoulders have rotated. And then once that front knee gets finally out of the way, and now it's stable, how much more our shoulders have rotated. And now it's just a matter of maybe 2 or 3 frames, before the ball's out. So now we can see finally right now, that front knee is stable and locking out. All before that, though, that knee is moving. Foot's making contact with the ground, knee is moving, knee's finally starting to stable itself out, but the ball's out. We need that knee to stable out right away, which means when that foot hits the ground, we need it to be landing more in this type of position here. Not so much this position here. So let's go ahead and we will keep you at about this position right here. Or you know what? No, we'll just let you loop with these other ones while we get our next guy up. Okay. Ooh. Hopefully I remember to edit this out and you guys aren't stuck watching this. If you are stuck watching this, I do apologize. I meant to edit this out before, but I just want to get a little cleaner so there's a little bit better of a gap. All right. So looking here now. Okay, we're going to see from the top of your leg lift how much your waist or your hips have rotated. We don't need to rotate our hips to get our leg to come up on an angle back. Okay, because we definitely want our leg lift to be on an angle going slightly back, but we don't want our hips to turn like this because now, like you see, the back seam of your pants are facing the target. All that's going to happen now before you can start going to your target is you're just going to have to undo that. Right? So now that you've gone all the way here and now you're rotating it out, is just going to be one continuous opening. And we can even just watch that front foot, toes to second. And if you just keep the eye on the toe, it's never holding its place. It's always constantly opening. And then we can finally see once it hits the ground, this leg is telling, or our entire lower body, in fact, not just this leg, but primarily this leg and the whole lower body is telling us that we should be throwing the baseball this way. Our energy should be getting sent out this way. Obviously, the upper body knows that's not the case because it's in a great position right now to throw the ball straight to us, right to the target. Lower half is saying, no, we're throwing this ball like hitting the on-deck batter is like where your lower body's going right now. So now, why is that occurring? I think probably because we're starting it so far back this way that it's got to get so much rotation just to get back to like a good position here that you're just never having the time to get it back out in front before it hits the ground and you run out of real estate. So now we're going to see something very similar like we just saw in Christianson's video, where this knee is now going to have to kind of give way to get this back hip some space to come through. And as we're doing that, we're just losing power. Not only are we losing power from what we have created, we have put ourselves in a position where we're not creating a whole lot with this lower half. As we can see, this back foot hasn't really turned over, rotated, or driven away from the mound until now, but it's too late. That force from the back leg can't get sent forward because your front foot's already in the ground. You can't go more forward. This drive that you're doing right here on that back leg, drive and rotate, that's got to be done with this foot still off the ground so that this foot does not just get put down here, but it can continue to travel in the air. It's still in the air. It's still in the air. It's still in the air. And instead of just the knee trying to get turned to here, the foot's also able to keep traveling forward as it's coming out, traveling forward as it's coming out, traveling forward as it's coming out. So now we're landing here. But we can see in order for that back foot to get turned over into this type of position here, how much our shoulders had to rotate to get it there. Which means, is it our back leg really doing that motion, or is our back shoulder pulling everything through? Is our back shoulder rotating forward what's pulling and dragging that back leg around? Okay, which that is the case. When you get yourself in this position, that backside has not fired yet, has not rotated, has not driven yourself off of that rubber to your target, getting away from where you started before that front foot hits the ground, it's going to happen after. And if it's happening after, it's only happening after because the shoulders are doing it. The shoulders are forcing it to happen. So now if the shoulders are having to rotate that back leg through, do we think the shoulders can be rotating as fast, as explosively, as stress-free as they could? No, because they're having to pull this entire weight that's also dragging, which is slowing it down slightly during that process. So this arm is doing a lot of work to throw the baseball in addition to then having to pull and drag this back leg through. So your amount of energy that your body is creating is almost being overshadowed by the amount of energy that you have to use to get the ball out of your hand. So once we can get that lower body working on time and in good directions, we're going to be able to create a lot more power coming out through our throw because our lower body feeds our upper body. Also, don't be afraid to mix in a belt now, huh, babe? All right, continuing you back through your loop. Get the next guy up, who is here. Okay. So, oops, I just paused someone I didn't want to pause. There we go. Let me get back to you. Okay, so I want you to just kind of notice, it's a little small of a detail, but just notice how as your leg is getting the top like 75, 85, 95% of that leg lift, how your body's kind of hunching. Your body's kind of hunching, which is giving your brain the illusion that your leg is going up higher than it actually is. Okay, so that's one. Two, a body part that starts a motion is probably going to want to stay in that motion, in that direction, until something changes. Until something changes it, which is a force. Okay? So your body starts to hunch down, and it's probably going to now want to continue to go in this manner until some other force moves in a different direction. So we'll watch the shoulders, how they kind of keep wanting to go in this direction. And now we're kind of in this hunched here. When we started, we were here. And not a whole lot of time had passed in our delivery to go from this type of position here to this type of position here. Okay, now, not saying this is a bad position to be in, but we're going to be going from shoulders, hips, back foot, like this, to back foot, hip, shoulders, like this, just to eventually get back to hip, shoulders, back foot. Okay? So, again, it's not saying that this is a bad position, but if we start to get this way, and our body is starting to hunch this way, we know it's going to have to eventually get back this way, by the time our front foot hits the ground. And like we said, once a body part goes in motion, an outside force has to stop it from going to that motion. So what's the outside force that stops this from going more that way? It's the glove getting to this position and starting its finish. That gets the shoulders back upright. But what's going to be the outside source that prevents the shoulders from continuing now going in that direction? See that? Boom. It's still out there now. It kind of just flies open a little bit. And now we're caught trying to throw the baseball here. We're very much going around the baseball, around the baseball, around the baseball, instead of getting through the baseball, throwing through the baseball, because we got to throw this ball downhill and down. And right now, your body is rotating out this way, as we rotate this way, which will ultimately release that energy more out this way than this way. So we're missing out on a lot of power. We can also see some of the similar things on the front leg that we've talked about with the first two guys, on how when it's hitting the ground, it's kind of hitting the inside part of the foot first, then the full foot hits the ground, then the knee has to get out of the way. Now the knee is in a position where it can stabilize, but at that time it's too late. All right, we do a really good job with our glove action, though, from this swivel process right here. It's exactly what we're looking for with the glove, but where everything led us to at this point in time, every motion that we did that got us into this position here, doesn't allow the glove to continue to work well, because the shoulder is not going to hold its position there and allow the glove and elbow to do that swivel that it does right there, that swivel right there, in a good position, because this shoulder just keeps going, flying out to the side. So we're losing a lot of our power potential. We're losing probably a good amount of our command ability because of these opposite forces occurring right now and us throwing around the baseball instead of through the baseball. That, again, we're another guy that's leaving a good chunk of velocity on the table. So if we then get our next guy up. Okay, so we'll get this to the top. Like we talked about, we're not ninjas, so we're not trying to karate chop kick anyone. As we've been able to see with all these guys' videos, a lot more of the foot just dangling underneath the knee, dangling underneath the knee, underneath the knee, underneath the knee, underneath the knee, versus karate chop out, because now we got a whole other thing that we got to worry about, timing and direction. And it's also going to be very difficult to rotate our hips from this type of position here, when a lot of our energy is going to end up going really hard down, really fast, straight into the ground. And we're going to see, boom, just really hard, really fast into the ground, which is not going to create a lot of rotational energy, because we're not really rotating. We're just kind of slamming the foot down in front of us. And we know that because we can see the back foot, by the time this front foot hits the ground, hasn't done anything but get to the balls of your toes. There's been no rotation or drive. And if we want to say that in the appropriate sequence, there hasn't been any drive, then rotation out of that back leg. If we watch the back leg, it's not going to do that drive and rotation until now. But now is too late. This position that you are in right here with your lower body is exactly what we want it to be at when it first hits the ground. But we can see it's hitting the ground here, then it's getting to here. Here, and then here. All of this rotation of the lower body that we see here is now wasted power potential. Because the more that we can rotate our hips, our knees, and our feet at front foot strike here, when our foot hits the ground, that's called front foot strike. The more that we can rotate our hips, knees, and feet before front foot strike occurs, that rotational energy that we create by doing that movement gets then sent up to our upper body, which is about to then do that same exact rotational movement. Okay? But if our foot hits the ground here and we haven't done hardly any rotation with our lower body, that means now that it's time for our upper body to rotate, it's going to have to pull and rotate this lower body while it rotates itself. So like we said earlier, that's going to mean it's going to have to rotate at a slower rate than it should, at a less explosive rate than it could, and reduce velocity, increase arm stress, and decrease command. So we'll watch then as this front shoulder then is going to have to kind of yank and peel this way to help get this knee out, to help then bring this this back hip through. Boom. And right now, finally, the lower body has rotated through, but we can see then how much the upper body has rotated to get it to that position, meaning now our upper body only has that rotation for power, that amount of rotation for power, that amount of rotation for power, which is not power going very much down. As you can see, your arm is just going straight forward before it goes down. We need to be throwing this baseball down. We need to be throwing this baseball down. So where another guy's going to be in a camp of learning how to rotate our lower half. So far, we can see that's the theme of the squad, is learning how to pitch. And when I say learn how to pitch, I mean learn how to use our body to throw the baseball, which is a pitcher. Let's get to the next guy. All right, so from the top of this leg lift here, 1, fantastic height. 2, fantastic angle. 3, we are a guy that seems to want to maybe move the hands a little bit during the leg lift. And if that's the case, cool. Let's start with the hands a little bit lower so we can move them up to this position here while that leg moves. If we don't want to be maybe starting with that hand lower and moving the hands up, I'm going to recommend to you that we think about keeping the elbows, hands, shoulders a little bit more quiet as we get to the top of this leg lift here. Because we want to stay as relaxed as we possibly can. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Okay? When we tighten and tense up, our muscles cannot move as quickly and as explosively as they could if they were relaxed and loose. As you're raising your legs, if we watch just your shoulders, we can see how they kind of raise up there, and boom, now we're just kind of tight and tense right now. And if we start tight and tense through hand separation, it's going to be hard to get loose during our hand separation. And that's when we want to stay the loosest we possibly can with our hands. Because that's just like a timing. Going through this process here with our hands is just timing. It's just timing. It's just timing. And then once it's no longer timing, it's because the back leg is going to fire. And then it's time to throw the baseball, right? So if we start kind of tight and tense, we're going to maybe want to stay tight and tense, which maybe is going to be harder for us to be as explosive as we can. We kind of see it in your face right here. It's already tight and tense. Staying tight and tense, staying tight and tense, staying tight and tense, staying tight and tense, staying tight and tense. Now we've gotten loose. Now we're breathing. Okay, and I think you're my guy that I made a comment about the breathing in your throwing program today. If not, it was homeboy behind you. Yeah, because it was one of you guys in the Reds, in the Maroons. But so that could be something that we think about is, can I think about the way I breathe be what helps me keep my shoulders relaxed, or thinking relaxed shoulders will just automatically help me breathe better. Who knows, one way or the other, but we can think about either way as we do this, and we can just think about doing some leg lifts in the mirror with our hands and thinking, if I'm going to keep my hands straight up here, does it feel comfortable to be relaxed with the leg coming up, or do my hands want to do these little early movements here? And maybe start with my hands a little bit lower down here, and as the leg is starting to come up, now the hands are going up with it, so now they're always in motion to here. So then they're going to want to kind of fall a little bit more. Not saying we want to go down, but just kind of be a little bit more relaxed coming out. So that way we don't get fully extended as quickly and as early as we do, because now the glove's going to want to finish early. And your glove, because it was so high so early, we're going to get to the hand swivel of the glove finish process. The hand swivel, hand swivel, hand swivel, hand swivel. Because it was so straight, and then we start to swivel, by the time we finish that swivel movement, the glove is out here, which is now going to want to force this shoulder to go out here. So now you're really fighting to not rotate open, but to be able to rotate down and through. And we'll be able to see how the front shoulder kind of just really just is fighting not to open up and bring that backside through. It's close. But if this glove was able to finish more tight into the body, so at this position right here, we can see this gap. If we just imagine this curvature of your body was connected with this glove. So this glove got right there, and that's where the glove was at. That front shoulder would want to hold this position a little bit better and not kind of keep going out over to here as we release, but being more tight to our body to create more power out in front versus just out to the side a little bit more than we are here. But of the dudes on your squad that I got to see today, this delivery from the front view is the closest of the guys. We can see that the backside is starting to turn over a little bit more. It wants to start that drive, starting to drive, where it's not giving it enough time to complete the drive. So we can see that back hip. Complete the drive, just needs a little bit more room. And we know that because we can even see, watch, the foot is on the side. It hits the ground. Now watch the heel come off. Boom, heel's coming off. Why is the heel coming off? Because it wants to go forward more. It wants to go up further. It wants to gain more ground. And it can if we are able to drive for longer with this foot off the ground more. So we got to learn how to sit in this better, keep this front leg from going down out of its leg lift right away, because yours goes from the top of the leg lift, and before our body starts to go, it's starting to go down. From the top of the leg lift, we can kind of hold it in this angle here for a little bit, like a moment of that amount of time, that amount of time, that amount of time. As the body starts to go down the mound, instead of us being in this position with the knee now below the waist, we'd be in this position with the knee still like right here. So if the knee is up here, that means the foot wouldn't be this close to the ground. It would be this close to the ground. So that means when it would get to here, instead of it being this close to the ground, it would be like this close to the ground. So then when it would get to here, instead of it being this close to the ground, it would be like this close to the ground. So instead of it hitting the ground here, it would still be like this far from the ground. So then as the knee would continue to rotate, it would be getting very close to the ground, and then the knee would finish its rotation, and now it would finally be in the ground. But instead of the foot being only here, it would be like out to here. Okay, and again, you're a guy that we can see once we are in this good lower body position of things getting turned over, how much that upper body has had to rotate to get there. So now we don't have the ability to get out in front as much through release. We're more kind of coming a little bit around the baseball before we can get back out in front. But we're close. A lot of good things happening with that arm. All right, I think, yeah, because we started off with Christianson, so this should be, oh man. I think I've moved him around the right way. We'll find out in editing. All right. So, get you to the top. Okay. Oops, I paused someone. Who did I pause? My bad. All right. So, for my dude down here, sorry, I don't know you guys' names yet. GR something. Let's call you number 9. We can watch here and how the hands kind of climb with the leg. This could be something that maybe we look to do to help us stay relaxed. So now the hands are moving up, and now they're going to kind of want to go a little down before they come around. Something that could happen for you. But, all right, back to just over here. So I like this. I was never this type of guy until I got the pro ball, and I really liked it, and I offer it up to some guys that I think could benefit from it. So we're doing a good job of keeping it in good sync and good unison, working together with that leg and not doing one more than the other or one quicker than the other. One thing to kind of think about is as we're kind of separating here, I do like to get that elbow up to make it a strong elbow. I do like to get thumb down, palm out position with the glove. I just kind of worry that with how your leg kind of comes up and then kind of when we're sitting back into this here, we're really closed off. Like, it's fantastic. It's great. But if we're going to be this closed off, we're going to have to really accelerate and rotate our lower body to get into position on time at front foot strike. Okay? So we're going to watch this lower half come, and we can see how much the foot knows that it needs to get in line, but it's leaving the knee behind. So now it's going to land here on the inside of the foot. Then we stabilize, and we can see as we stabilize, we already are kind of arched back here. When this foot starts to make contact with the ground, we're already in a big arch over here. Why? Because we were so closed that we're going to have to get opening late. And now it's happening late. We got to make sure it's going in a good direction, forward, down, and out. And we kind of get caught into struggling to get it out in front of us. Struggling to get the ball out in front of us through release. We can get it out in front after release, but through release, very tough for you. Okay? But we see then, because we left the knee behind and we're just thinking about get my foot in a straight path in front of me, it's not the foot that we care about. It's this knee. Because if that knee is in the way like it is here, back hip can't come through. The knee is blocking it. And then once the foot hits the ground, if that knee is still blocking it, we're going to have to do something drastic to get it back in line. I mean, you can see by the time we get it back in line, ball's already out of our hands. The front leg was never in a stable position as we threw the baseball. We need to get that foot down and get that lower half strong and stable with that front side, and then rotate that upper half. And we can see that because of how much you just keep yourself counter-rotated as you're coming down the mound, and at your age with your strength and your explosiveness, it's just not really realistic that you're going to be able to be on time at front foot strike. Like, what you're doing to like create this power is fantastic. Like, it's awesome. But we just don't have the power and the strength in our body to get to a position on time to send all that power that you're creating with that lower half and that upper half by staying closed, to get that power to go home in a good direction, to make it useful in your velocity, right? We can create a lot of power with a throw, but if that power in that throw is not in a direction that we need it to be, that power is pretty useless. So we can see we're just balancing on such a fine line of being able to get our energy going forward at release, and so much of our energy is just peeling out to the side before we finally get to start going forward, is well after that ball's out of our hands. So how much energy of backspin or of getting spin on the baseball, getting your fingers through that ball, are we able to get if we're not getting it down and it's mostly getting it up before it gets down? So let's then maximize our screen here. so we can continue to get all of your guys' videos going, but get some comps of big leaguers. Okay. Oh, sorry, not side view. Okay. Let's get some guys here. This is lower half, unfortunately, on that one. All right. So here's our player pool. So that's, oh man, I didn't get them far enough over, did I? To keep you guys all played. Kopech will have to make an adjustment, but okay. So Casey Mize, Tigers, rookie, pretty good. Watch that lower body rotate. So his front foot hits the ground. We can see that belt buckle, and watch that this knee is going to stay right there. It's not going to roll out. It's going to lock out. It's going to stiffen out. It's going to lock out. And that lockout process allows that energy to get that ball to be sent down out in front. See how that ball is? We're not rotating those shoulders out. We're rotating those shoulders forward and down. Rotating the shoulders forward and down. Forward and down. A lot of us are getting around the baseball a little bit, and that's because of where our front leg is landing at that front foot strike. Kershaw. Pretty good. Boom. A lot more in line. This knee is not going to have to roll out to get the back hip through. Why? Because the back hip's already through. There's space there. Where's the glove at for the guys that we made a comment about the gloves being a little bit outside of our body? Boom, right here. Boom, look at that glove. Boom, look at that glove. Right into the chest. It just swivels and the body goes to it. The glove gets out in front. It swivels. Body goes to it. We don't pull the glove in. We don't rip the glove around. We go to the glove. We go to the glove. we go to the glove. Okay, so at front foot strike, boom. You see lower body's through, and look, the chest has not rotated yet. So now he has all of this to rotate down out in front. All right, to be able to rotate down and out in front, not around, but rotate the back shoulder forward to get it to go down, down, down through release, not getting outside the baseball like we got here and a little bit over here. Oh, my man, I'm sorry. Man, how long were you sitting there like, dude, I wish my video was playing? So, let's get that out. Hunter Green is the Reds rookie. He's a starter who's 98 to 102. It's pretty good. Watch how, as he rotates, that front foot doesn't leave the knee behind, but it rotates with that knee. Boom. Gets in that front foot strike position. You can see that belt buckles through more. Those shoulders are still back. So that way when he rotates, it's out in front. Out in front. Seeing where that glove is at? Boom. And for a moment, it just doesn't even move. Multiple frames, and it just is almost in the same exact spot. That's what helps keep the shoulder from not wanting to keep going out as we rotate, but hold firm with the glove there. And that's why if the glove gets outside of our body too much at this point in time, the shoulder can end up going with it a little bit. Versus keeping that shoulder in better like this with this glove path. But obviously we talked about the butt turning so much and that creating some of its own issues. But that glove being able to do its path is a lot cleaner here because boom, it's by the body, staying by the body, which once we get that leg straight, we'll be able to rotate those shoulders straight down the mound, just like these guys are. Scherzer, you guys all know him, been in the league forever. Pretty good. I'm not sure if this is going to be low enough to see where his foot hits, but oh, wow. Was not expecting it to get quick there like that. But foot is in the ground. We can see the belt buckles through, the back hips through. The shoulders are still fighting to stay closed. That glove is by his side of his body. So that way, as he rotates, it's out in front and down the mound. So we can rotate it out in front and down the mound. Even for our guys that got those lower arm slots, it doesn't matter that you got a low arm slot. We still got to throw the ball down the mound, not just across our body, but down and out in front. And one of my guys, I think it was my man here, we were talking about that same exact thing. Just because we got a low slot doesn't mean we let the ball go here and travel this way. We got to throw that ball down and across our body, get it back out in front of us. And in front of us is here. This is obviously not here because the camera needs to be more to the right to be true in front of him, but you can see where that elbow from that catcher's coming out right there. That energy is going to that spot, not just straight to us out of the hand, straight forward. See that? That's where that ball is going versus where this ball's going. Boom. Versus this one's going straight out of your hand and straight forward that way. It's going to be high and behind a righty's head. All right. Coat patch, what we can do actually is flip horizontally, right? Yeah, we'll make him look like a lefty. Beautiful. Why is he not moving? Okay, there we go. Oh, it's so blurry. We're not even going to worry with that one. I don't want to save those changes. No. Okay, Eovaldi.
Down, he goes very late.
Boom, foot hits the ground. We can see that this is in a much more better alignment because that back hip's through more. We can see that belt buckle. That's our tell. We can see that the shoulders are staying closed. Where's that glove at? And now watch, that knee's not going to roll out. It's just going to lock out. Lock out. Lock out. Stiffen it out. Straighten it up. And when we do that, that sends all of our energy up and helps get our shoulders out and front and down. Helps get our shoulders out and front and down. Okay. So, oh, we got one more. From the side view, not sure how much we're going to be able to see, but we'll definitely be able to see the leg locking out from here. Boom. So right there, his foot hits the ground. We can see that belt buckle is going to the target. Shoulders are still closed. That glove's in the side of to the side of his body, and it's just going to swivel. His body's going to go to the glove, and now we'll watch that front leg lock out. Front leg lock out, help send energy up, and get the ball going downhill. Okay, if that lead leg does not block or lock out, the energy that we just sent, boom, into that leg will just stay in the knee. We need the knee to lock out so the energy goes from the back leg to the front leg, which is in the foot. The foot doesn't keep going, so it gets sent up to the knee. If the knee doesn't lock out, the knee will bend more. If the knee bends more or stays the same, our hips are going to start going forward without being able to throw the ball forward. But if we lock our legs out, our hips won't go forward. They'll just rotate, which will send our chest forward, which will also send it down. But if that knee stays or goes, the hips will still go. And now the chest won't be able to throw down with the throw. It'll just be going down, and the arm will come after it. All right, that's enough. We don't need to see anymore. We got the point. We can watch the man do it. Bam. Right there at front foot strike. Gloves right by the shoulder, or tucked by the side of the body. So that way, boom, energy's down and out in front. Pause it one more time at its front foot strike for you. Boom. Sorry, fellas up there. You couldn't see your feet for a bit. You can see at front foot strike right there what we look like, and then coming out of there, what that helps us do. Especially with you guys now, more times than not, you're going to be on at least this type of bump, if not something more realistic. And the more elevation we get, the more we got to drive that ball down. And if we don't know how to drive our upper body down by using our lower body, we're going to be in a really tough spot for command and arm health come season time. So everything that we're going to be doing next week is going to be involved around how to rotate and drive our lower body.